No, you did not read the title wrong. If you are here, it is because you know that you are struggling with motivation and you probably think something's wrong with you. But let me just tell you, I'm going to be the first to tell you that relying on motivation does not work. Motivation's working power is literally on a ticking timer. Now, let me explain. It is very short-lived and it is not a sustainable working model for you to feel like you can stick to your goal. So if you're like relying on motivation and this is going to get me through reaching my goals and doing things every day that are going to take me there, pump the brakes, sweetie, okay? If you wanna seriously improve your life, improve your health, it might be better that you take a listen to this video before you decide to work slowly on motivation. Let's take a step back. For those of you that are new here, my name is Diane Flores. I've been in the health and fitness space for over 17 years. I'm an IFBB bodybuilding pro, which also makes me a professional dieter. And I'm a personal trainer, I'm a health coach, and I have been tracking macros and calories for a very long time. I've been 200 pounds. I have professionally dieted my whole professional bodybuilding life. I've gained weight, I've lost weight, I've been shredded, I have been obsessive, I've hated my body, I now love my body. I've had unhealthy eating behaviors and everything in between. Just to recap, this episode is for you if you struggle with motivation, you find that being consistent is very difficult for you because you lose it, you lose the motivation. If you feel overwhelmed by life's responsibilities, and if you want to make a lifestyle change for good after many unsuccessful attempts. Before I dive into what really works and why it fails and what are some of the things that you can do to compensate the limitations of relying on motivation, I want to give you a brief background of some of the goals and milestones that I've reached to come to this realization, along with reading tons of motivational stuff, reading all the habit books that are out there, and really understanding what it is that I put in place that got me to where I was at. Although many of you here may know me for my fitness glow up from my fitness journey, which is essentially being an overweight 200-pound woman that eventually made her way to do 16 bodybuilding shows and earn the prestigious accolade of IFBB pro bodybuilder. I have also done some other things besides my fitness stuff that also tie very closely to this topic of how I didn't rely just on motivation. And after doing some deep diving, I realized what it truly was. I have also been through some other things in my life that required me to dig deep and not rely solely on motivation, like being a pregnant teen mom and being a single mom of two and broke and on government assistance. And you guys probably didn't know I was a high school beauty dropout. Yes, I was. And also from that, moving to running a successful fitness studio for, at this point, almost 17 years now, and an online business, right? Which is how probably a lot of you found me here. What was the podcast and Instagram and the YouTubes, right? All that to say, I've been through the ups and downs of motivation. And what I'm going to talk about today is definitely some of the strategies and things that I was using, well, not knowing that a lot of times. But here's the thing. Motivation's limitations are this, okay? None of these things that I accomplished were because I was like genetically encoded with like bulletproof motivation, right? I don't have some fancy programming where I was raised in some crazy motivational household and like everybody was set up for success. Okay, that wasn't it. I'm a super normal human who just does not wake up motivated to do all the things. I probably would last 2 days if I relied solely on motivation. And I'm sure you can relate, right? Like how many times have you started a program and you were hot and heavy about it in the beginning, and then sure enough, you fall off. I'm going to tell you why that happens. So sit tight and let's keep going. Motivation is very short term. Okay. Just for example, at the time of this recording, we're in, we're going to be leading into March here, right around the corner. And over half of the New Year's resolutioners quit after 6 months or quit within that 6-month time period of starting a new fitness journey. So if motivation only works short term, how do successful people achieve bigger goals like weight loss, healthy lifestyle, and also things like financial freedom, right? All right. So before I share the solution, can you just pause for a second? If you're over on the tubes, on the YouTubes, go over, give this video a like. And while you're there, you're already there. Just hit subscribe, right? Just hit the subscribe button. This will help push the algorithm, which is a fancy way of saying the YouTube search engine, to let people know about my content. And I would be forever grateful for you. Okay, next, let's get into the juicy stuff here. Okay, the solution to willpower fatigue. And we're going to talk more about what that means. Oftentimes, people have a negative outlook towards failed diets and failed lifestyle changes, and they deem that the failure is due to their lack of willpower and character, when in reality, it is more so due to the incorrect method of relying solely on willpower. Did you get that? Did you get that soundbite? Because that is really what it boils down to. Willpower or motivation is, I want you to think of like a gas tank, okay? It is going to run out if it's not replenished. And our brains are wired to conserve energy wherever and whenever possible. And a lot of times we don't think about that when it comes to willpower. But when you are faced with having to make decisions that are not your normal, what you're doing is you're depleting your willpower or motivation gas tank, right? You're taking some miles. So you're running some miles and putting some miles on the engine, okay? Your brain is wired to conserve that energy whenever possible. And your willpower and your motivation is no different. Now, there is something called the law of least effort. And this was something that was very well described in one of my favorite books, which is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And this just basically means we gravitate towards the option that requires the least amount of work. As humans, we are designed to avoid pain or friction or things that we don't like, right? I mean, think about it. So when it comes to achieving your goals, you'll be motivated hot and heavy in the beginning, but if this is so far removed from your normal routine and it doesn't feel like it's part of your routine and it's going to cause some friction and it's a lot of change in a short period of time, this is how people fall off and this is how they struggle. And this is a repeat cycle we see time and time again. I've been in this business for 17 years, and I cannot tell you how many people that reoccurringly hit me up in January, and you may be one of them, and they want to join or they want to hop into one of my online programs. And I welcome you all with gentle, loving pressure to say, why is this time going to be different? You have to think about your process and what you've done before and your mindset around that versus now. It has to change if you want to see change. You likely can relate to this, right? You start a diet, you're good for the first like 3 days, you're eating clean, you're exercising, you're checking off all the boxes, and day after day, you'll notice your motivation starts to drop. And it becomes harder to make the choices that go against the law of least effort, okay? Every time you choose to do something, this is just for example, like exercise versus binging the TV and staying in bed, it takes motivational energy, okay? So every decision that you make that goes against what you're normally doing, even though it's good for you and you know it, it takes some of your motivational energy. You're depleting the gas tank, right? You're putting miles on the vehicle, vehicle being your brain. After enough times of these energy depleting tasks or actions, it's very, very easy to fall back on what's easiest and the path of least resistance, which is usually your default behaviors, right? The ones that got you there in the first place are the ones that are easy to just slip right back into. So what if we made the good habits your normal default and the default actions you go to without having to make conscious decisions every time that drain your energy. This is huge, you guys. Okay. So when you're trying to break bad habits and bring in new ones, one of the biggest mistakes is trying to overhaul all of them at once, right? Although I relied on this system for many years to reach my milestones, it's not until much later that I realized how important and powerful the system is compared to working on just pure motivation and hoping you're going to wake up and motivation is just going to show up at the door and you're going to knock all these things out with zero resistance, right? The key, so listen up here, is to avoid the choice and just make it a default. So I'll repeat that. You have to avoid so much choice making, decision making, and start to make it as a default. And we're going to talk about how to do that here in a second. And what that means is making the favorable action, the thing that you want to be doing, that you're like, I just need a motivation to do it, right? You want to make that favorable action not a choice that uses up your willpower, but an automatic action that you can do on autopilot. And this is where habit stacking, which is something that he talks about in Atomic Habits, is incredibly important. That if you already have a good habit around one thing, then you layer on another habit with that current habit to make it that much easier. A prime example, for those of you that grocery shop, okay, you take your cart out, you go into the grocery store, and you know yourself, if you park too close to the store, and there isn't a grocery cart corral, that's what they call them, right? Where you put the grocery carts back. Let's say there isn't one close to your vehicle. How likely are you to be that good person, right? Because I'm an asshole a lot of times. If I'm in a hurry, I'm sorry. You can unfriend me if you can't be friends with somebody who does not return their shopping cart. But if I see that it's too far and I'm in a rush or whatever, I'm going to just, I'm pushing that cart to the side, or I'm like hiking it over a cliff in a little cement block there so it doesn't bump somebody's car. However, if you know that you want to be the good person that returns the cart and you maybe want to get some steps too, when you go to the grocery store, you park your car right next to the cart corral or a few spots down if you don't want a door ding in my case. And you know that when you leave your car, least resistance, right? You're going to grab the cart. There's probably some in there. You're going to go into the store, do your shopping, come back, empty your groceries. And then guess what? The least resistance, the path of least resistance problem has been solved because you have parked right next to the cart corral. This is how I want you to think about stacking your habits and improving the current habits that you have by layering on small ones that end up making big changes over time. Okay. So instead of trying to be superhuman with insane willpower, you need to leverage your natural instincts to be lazy by putting habits on autopilot and stacking them with other habits. Okay. Now, let's dive into some more actionable strategies and 3 tips that I have for you to reach goals. And these tips are ones that will work if you believe in them, right? If you know that it makes sense and you quit resisting the simplicity that is these 3 tips and realize that these will really, really make some huge impacts if you stick to them. Okay. The first tip, and this is one that nobody wants to hear, but it is indeed the truth, especially for those of you that are repeat New Year's resolutioners, or you stick to a thing for a couple months and then you fall off. It's classically because you're setting the standards too high for yourself and you need to start small. Oftentimes, we hit the pitfall of wanting to achieve a lot right now, which is normal. And besties, I commend you for that. And I think that that is an admirable trait to possess, but you also need to know thyself. Okay. Quit turning your ambitions into unrealistic expectations. Okay. So I'm going to give you some examples. Let's say you want to lose 15 pounds. So in this quest to lose 15 pounds, you decide that you're tired of your shit and you are going to deploy a complete life overhaul. right? Because you're motivated, you're super motivated, and you believe that you can reach that goal if you just give it your all, right? Like you have the best of intentions. I believe everybody does. However, this is going to highly increase the chance that you are going to feel overwhelmed and frustrated when you can't keep up with all of the things that you've lined yourself up for this overhaul, because it's so different than your normal way of life. Okay. So if you decide you're going to take on some giant overhaul, some program, even, like a program like ours, our 12-week transformation program, and it is so incredibly different than what you're already doing, you're swinging the pendulum so hard the other way that now you have to completely learn how to interact with yourself in a new way and stay motivated about that, right? Instead, did you guys see that thumbs up? I can't get rid of it. I tried. Instead, I want you to think about these as baby steps. And I know that is so not sexy and it's not fun and it's not hardcore. However, using a gradual method of adding in things slowly is going to set you up for success over the long term. So, for example, if you're talking about exercise, then maybe you're just adding in one more workout per week. If you have 0 workouts you're doing, then you're just now doing 1. Okay. I have a really close friend who I've had since I was pregnant with my son. So 17 years now. And every time I'd see her, it was the same song and dance around the new year. It was like, can you give me a program? Can you give me a diet? Can you do me a thing? And let me tell you, she was doing nothing. And I would have this conversation with her and I would say, like, you can't do all the things, right? Like you haven't been, and now you want to go from 0 to 100. And her argument to me was always the same. If I don't go all in, I just won't stick to it. I won't be motivated. I won't see the results. And so I know myself and I will just give up. So I need to be doing something every day. Like once I decide I'm going to get fit, I need to do something every day. And guess what? Every year for probably 17 years now, this is the same problem presenting itself for her. We've worked some magic. I'm not her coach. She's a friend of mine, but I've worked some magic with her in her mindset, and I got her to understand that we do not need to eat the whole elephant at once. We got to take a bite at a time, which is a reference to a book, which is like, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. She wanted the whole elephant and chopped up into a buffet. I know that's a really awful visual, but so with that, going back to that example, just choose one day where you're now going to add in exercise instead of adding in 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, right? It can be that simple. And then you can start to build upon that. The next example is maybe you already, are working out and you need to focus on your nutrition, right? You know that your nutrition is the hardest part, and you are an infamous like strict dieter, right? You're just like all or nothing, right? This mentality doesn't work. What I would suggest is starting by fixing 1 meal per day. And I would start with breakfast, because most of my women, and probably some of you listening, are stuck in these stone ages of thinking that I just need to nibble for breakfast and I need to just have a coffee and not eat until 12 or 2, or I'm going to just nibble on a bar or have a bar for breakfast and just, or I'm going to fast and do all these things. And then later you turn into a ravenous beast and a complete asshole and you're standing in front of the pantry eating everything. When are we going to realize that's not working anymore? Right? Okay. So what we need to do, friends, is 1 fucking meal. That's it. 1. Okay. Don't try to overhaul your entire diet. Start with breakfast. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. When you find maybe 1 or 2 breakfasts that you can rotate with and focus on breakfast being your main homework, then it becomes autopilot, right? You don't need to autopilot 4, 5, 6 meals throughout the day. And then that is like draining your motivation tank completely. That's just working on the food piece of things. Okay. 1 meal that you always have, maybe it's egg whites and Greek yogurt and berries and spinach and, some sourdough toast, and you have some options to rotate between a couple breakfasts, right? You can make a smoothie, or you can make, a heartier protein filled breakfast. And maybe the smoothie has like some protein powder, something like that. Rotate between two breakfasts. Easy peasy, simple lemon squeezy, right? Raise your hand if you can do that. I know you can. You're raising your hand. Okay. If you're driving, one hand on the wheel, you raise your fucking hand. You can do that shit. Okay. One meal. Then maybe you're like, okay, I got that down. And, you got your training down. You're in the gym, you're doing the things, but your cardio sucks or whatever. You're not getting any cardio and you need to move more. Maybe you sit a lot like I do, right? Aim on getting 500 more steps a day. Don't go to 10K because somebody on the internet says that we all need to have 10K. Sure, that's an admirable goal to work towards, but not when you've been getting 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6,000 steps a day to then jump to 10K a day. That is overwhelming. So just add 500 extra steps to your day. That's easy. Go up and down your stairs 4 or 5 times at home if you have them. Go outside, walk to the mailbox, come back, run around your car. I don't know. 500 steps, easy. Okay. That is number one, is just starting small. And I know that sounds basic AF, but you guys, when you keep failing and you keep getting frustrated and saying, how do you stay motivated? And why can't I stay motivated? And why can't I stick to a program? A lot of times it's because you're setting the expectations of yourself way too high. Okay. Number 2 is going back to what we were saying earlier, which is reducing friction. Okay. So remember, the hack is to make whatever change you want to make or change that you need to make as easy as possible. Make things easy for yourself. So when it comes to workouts, if you work out in the morning, reduce the friction that is going to be made by having to make too many decisions when you wake up, right? Trying to figure out what you're going to wear. Oh my God, I hate these underwear. I have no socks. I don't know where my shoes are, right? This is a frantic way to start your day. And then it sets the tone for the rest of the day. So much like if you have children and you raise them to set up good habits with going to bed on time, and you have a routine for them, and maybe they take a bath or you read a story or you do homework at a certain time and you have dinner. So everybody is a well-oiled machine. And then mom is a frantic, frizzled mess because she has not created a routine for herself. You have to create a sense of ease into things that are already challenging for you. So if you are a morning worker-outer, crack a dawn crazy, gym clothes, simple, and people will think like, that's a dumb tip. Simple, most effective, least amount of resistance in your brain tip that you can achieve. And if you're not a morning worker-outer, it does not matter. You still get your shit ready. And if you're an evening worker-outer, you put this in your gym bag and it lives in your trunk. And there is never an excuse that you are not prepared with your clothes, your shoes, your headphones, whatever your gym equipment is, right? So get that shit ready the night before. I mean, down to what underwear and socks you're going to wear. I do this hands down like religion every single night. There might be some occasions where it doesn't happen, but it is now a habit. It has now become part of my routine. And when I wake up, I don't have to think. I do not have to think. I just know that's what I'm wearing. And you're done with it, right? Then you can start to layer on even more little habits that reduce the friction for you to get out the door and be on time and actually show up and do those things. Like maybe the night before, and this is something that I do, is I get my coffee ready, I get my water bottle and my shaker cup ready. I have my BCAAs or my pre-workout ready next to it because I don't like to make it ahead of time. I like to do it at point of. But I mean, like I fill up my water, I get everything out. It is literally there in my vision and it is ready to go because I don't want to have to think. I don't want to have to be searching for the right shaker cup and the thing that goes in the bottle. And then, oh God, where did I put my protein powder or my supplements or whatever? It's done. Okay. No wasting mental energy deciding what to wear, what to grab versus should I even go at all? Right. Because this is what happens a lot of the times. If you aren't taking a class somewhere or meeting with a friend, or you hire a trainer, or you're doing some kind of program where you have to, be accountable to somebody and show up. If you're accountable to yourself and you know it hasn't worked out so well for you in the past, then what tends to happen is you wake up, the alarm goes off, bed's warm, bed's cozy, I'll go after work, or I'll go tomorrow, or, the procrastination just keeps going. The procrastination train has now arrived. And this tends to happen as you get into more days of your journey of fitness when you haven't been doing it, right? In the very early stages of a fitness relationship, it's easy to lose motivation. The other example I want to give you is to reduce friction, because these are, getting to the gym and diet are the two biggest things that we hear about often that women struggle with, right? Like staying consistent and all that. And part of that is not having these habits placed in working for you. And the consistency is very much tied to discipline, which is also very much tied to your habits. Like these all go hand in hand. And hoping that you're going to wake up thrilled and excited and like bounding out of bed to go work out and like, eat a smoothie or drink a smoothie versus like having your mocha frappuccino and, a muffin from Starbucks. This is a transition, and you're going to have to rely on habits and not willpower and motivation. Okay. Now, with diet, here's an example. Let's say that you know that sugar, sweets, snacks, things of those nature are your problem, right? This is where you have a sweet tooth, a weakness, you can't resist, things of that nature. But your house and your pantry and your refrigerator, and maybe even the break room at work, which is a lot more out of your control, are also filled with these temptations and triggers that are constantly surrounding you, because this is how you normally ate, or maybe other people in your household eat like that and things like that. That is going to destroy your consistency because your environment hasn't changed. Okay. Now, sure, it's possible. It's possible. I have dieted and done many contest preps with children in the house. And at some point when I was married, and, my husband had this much interest, which is zero, to be part of anything related to my healthy eating or meal prepping. It's possible. Okay. But let me tell you, it is exponentially harder. And this is a harsh reality that a lot of people don't want to face, is that their surroundings are sabotaging them. Okay. This is not the fun and sexy tip here, but you have to get that shit out of your house. Okay. It is not to say that you can never eat those things. It is not to say that you can't fit them in or work them in. However, when they are readily available and you're having a weak moment, or a moment where you're like, I don't give a fuck. I want something. You want to maybe soothe an emotional eating moment, or you're starving because you come home and maybe you like missed a meal or something like that. And here lies this plethora of temptation right before your eyes. It is very easy for you to fall back into that trap. And then one bad decision leads to another, to another, to another. And then guess what? You're back at square one and you have made zero progress because we didn't attack this the right way. So what I suggest, again, get that food out, replace it with sanity foods that will not trigger you and can work for you. Okay. We talk about this a lot in our programs, and I'm a very huge advocate for teaching women that you should not be scared of food. However, you have to build a healthy relationship with it. And if right now your relationship consists of strict dieting, restriction, and, if I'm eating anything that is not on this meal plan or is like a whole food or whatever, then I'm a failure. Then once you go off that plan, it's like, what the hell? It's called the what the hell effect. What the hell? I already ruined today. I might as well ruin the rest of the week, and I'll start back again on Monday, right? When you can build in some sanity foods, and basically, this is something that I made up, but we use it a lot in our coaching to keep women on track and realize that they do not have to just like white knuckle their way and, be hardcore or like it's not working, is a food that you enjoy and we can keep in the house and you can have it in moderation, that is going to serve a psychological enjoyment like need, right? Because food is, yes, fuel. And I used to be one of these like hardcore zealots that was like, you should only be eating for fuel and this and that. And, why do we need to be entertained by our food? And food is not pleasure and this and that. And I've sort of settled into more of a Goldilocks approach, right? We don't want too much. We don't want too little of foods that we enjoy. We want the right amount. And that takes some practice, and that takes getting to know yourself and understanding, well, yep, can't have that around because I'm going to eat the whole jar. Or I have zero restraints or control when XYZ food is in the house. So having some sanity foods in place allows you to have your proverbial, cake and eat it too, right? So this can look like things like, maybe you have some really yummy protein bars on hand, which I know doesn't sound like a sanity food, but for my girls who hardcore diet, they don't include things like that. So maybe you have some protein bars. Maybe you have a rice cake and a flavored rice cake with some peanut butter and, a tablespoon of chocolate chips. Or you have one of my favorite things, which is like a protein cereal. And basically what that is I have some rice checks on hand, just plain rice checks, some almond milk, and a scoop of my favorite protein powder. And I use it as milk. And I just have a bowl of protein. So who doesn't love a bowl of cereal at night? Like, come on, unless you are just a rotten, evil person, you don't enjoy cereal at nighttime. It's like the best snack. Okay. So sanity foods like that, maybe it is practicing portion control with a certain food, like ice cream, right? Where you are buying pre-portioned like fudge bars or something like that, where you're just like, I'm going to have one a day. I'm going to have one a day and the world isn't going to come to an end. And guess what? I'm still going to be on track with my goals. Okay. So cut away anything that will get between you, the you right now, and the you that you want to become. Do you get that? You got to cut out anything that is going to get between you and the you that you are trying to be, the you that you want to become. That is tip number 2. All right. Last but certainly not least is something that a lot of us struggle with, which is normalizing failure and that it is going to happen. Okay. I'm guilty of this big time. Big time, big time, big time, especially coming from a competitive background. And there's no room for error when you are competing, right? It happens, don't get me wrong, but you need to be so dialed in for that goal. It's unreal, right? There is no wiggle room for bites, licks, tastes, accidents. Oops, I forgot to do my cardio. Oops, I didn't, do the things. So recovering perfectionist here is definitely guilty of feeling like when I don't stick to something 100%, or I have a bad day, or I miss a workout, or all the things, I will beat myself up. Anything that goes against my plan and let it crush my morale. But I'm here to tell you, it's overrated. Okay. Oftentimes we freak out when we fail. Okay. Because we think that that's going to set us back and we then need to throw in the towel. And, basically it's the whole analogy. If like your car got a dent in it, would you just push it off of a bridge and just be like, there's a dent in the car. That thing's useless. Probably not. Okay. So if you have these little missteps and you have these little hiccups, congratulations, you're human. Life happens. You're normal. And you're not always going to feel motivated and 100%. And life gets lifey. Life, things happen. It gets in the way. Okay. So no matter what you're working towards, you need to build in that expectations that failure is going to happen. And the reason why you need to do this is because when you give yourself that grace, you won't freak out as bad, right? It won't be like the end of the world if something happens. So if you come to a point in your journey, which you will, where you can't stick to your workout plan or you miss a day, don't make that mean that you're a failure. Super important, because then what oftentimes happens is we get into this negative loop, this negative spiral, and then we just don't show up for the rest of the week and we just start over on Monday. Okay. And I don't want that for you. So it's not all or nothing. It is a compounding journey. this whole process. And that's how I want you to think of it, is one step leads to another step, leads to another step. And this is a compound journey of creating habits that serve your goals. And one more thing, listen up here, because this is super important, is there is a distinguishing factor between winners and losers, and that is how they react to failure. And I can hands down attest to that. I know time and time again, when I have been faced with setbacks and failures and just overall things are not going my way, which, you know, being a competitor, being a mom, owning a business, it's bound to happen. I pick myself up. I look back in the rearview mirror for just a split second and I say, well, what did I learn from that? It's a lesson. It is a lesson. It is just one blip in the journey of the compounding effects of what I'm doing. And I don't take it personal. I don't try to I try not to attach my self-worth and my feelings to things that don't work out. I stick to facts, right? Facts. A lot of times you're going to be set back because things are out of your control for the most part. And when it comes to those things, those are easier to say, well, I can't, I got stuck at work, or my car broke down, or, you know, kids are sick. Facts. It's fine. It's a lesson that life is not perfect. And guess what? I'm going to keep going with the next meal, the next workout, the next day. Now, anybody can have a bad day at work. They can have a bad workout. They can have a shitty day of eating, but successful people fail and then they rebound very quickly and they get right back at it. And that is what you're going to do. Okay. That is what you're going to do. You're going to stop the nonsense. You're going to stop the all or nothing attitude. And you're today going to just choose one little action step to layer on top of something you're already doing to improve your life. Okay. I love you, besties. All right. Just to recap, let's recap over this episode. Motivation works for a limited period of time, right? It has an expiration date. And again, it will come and go. It will wane and it will come back and it will peak, and you can do things to help improve it. But overall, I want you to stop eliminating the phrase, I'm just not motivated, out of your vocabulary. The more you speak that into the universe, the more you will continue to not be motivated. The likelihood that you will continue to do the things to sabotage yourself will be higher, and you will live in this self-created story that you need motivation, when the reality of it is you just need to build in some small, simple habits, easy steps to create a sense of success. Like, oh shit, that was easy. I can tackle that. You know, hit the easy button, right? And over time, that will build into huge rewards for you. So to reach long-term goals, you got to make actions default habits that you do without second guessing. Okay. Let me repeat that. To be successful and reach long-term goals, you need to make your actions a default habit that you do without second guessing it. Okay. Going back to the example of setting your stuff out the night before is one easy one. And just as a reminder, the 3 ways to build those are start small, reduce friction, and normalize your failure. All right, besties, I hope this episode was helpful for you and that you can reach your goals in the future with this mindset and these useful tips. And if you are struggling, okay, if you are struggling with motivation, with your habits, with your fitness in general, and you need some hype woman in your corner, I'm your girl. All right. Can we get a thumbs up? I'm your girl. Now, how I can be your girl even more than you listening to me on the Spotifys or the podcasts or over here on the YouTubes is I have resuscitated my free Facebook group. Now, I know some of y'all aren't over on Facebook, and that's okay. We can still love each other and give each other warm, fuzzy hugs here. But over on Facebook, I had a group with 2,000 members in it, and I haven't been in there in quite some time. And I really miss the community aspect of having conversations with people around their fitness and having a hub for like-minded women. Because let's face it, if you're listening to me, you are a special human, because not all women want to listen to boss bitch. Okay. It is definitely more direct. It's more in your face. I'm not going to deliver you some like cutesy little, fluffy fitness messages with booty bands and telling you that you need to go, eat 1,000 calorie diets. And I'm a little rough around the edges. And I think y'all like that. And I would love to just hang out with you more in an area that's not just the DMs of my Instagram where it's just, you know, solo YOLO. So free Facebook group. We'll link it up in the show notes. It is the Boss Bitch Besties fitness community. Super easy. And I'm going to be doing some lives in there. We'll have some challenges coming up, just really finding out how I can help you ladies and serve you in the highest good because I fucking love that shit. It's fun and I enjoy it. And I hope you guys do too. So find me over there if you are not able to do that at this moment. The link will be in the show notes, but have an amazing day. I love you to the moon and back, and let's keep crushing.